On my mother's birthday, she lifted her glass and said, "The greatest gift would be you leaving my life." So I packed up, sold the house, froze every account, and vanished. 1 week later, I remember the crystal glass, the candlelight, the hopeful flutter in my chest. It was my mother Evelyn's 65th birthday, a night I'd poured my heart and soul into. But when she finally raised that glass, her eyes locked on mine, and she delivered a blow that still echoes in my soul. "The best gift you leaving my life." That night, I decided I would give her exactly what she asked for. You see, for 35 years, I, Cassandra Reynolds, had lived for my mother's approval. It was a constant, aching need, a wound that never quite healed. My childhood, it was a soundtrack of her cutting remarks and disapproving glances. My artwork was messy. My grades were never perfect enough. My clothes never stylish. Other moms proudly displayed crayon drawings. Mine picked apart every flaw before tossing them in the trash. In public, she'd yank my shoulders back so hard it left red marks hissing. "Stand up straight, Cassandra. No one likes a girl with bad posture." Then, "Smile more, but not like that. You look ridiculous." It was relentless. My father, though, he was my refuge. He was warm, encouraging, quick with praise. "That's my bright girl," he'd say, his eyes crinkling, as I showed him a science fair project or a story. He was the only buffer between her cold criticism and my fragile self-esteem. Then, when I was 12, everything shattered. Dad died, suddenly, of a heart attack. I found him in the backyard. I remember the screaming, the flashing ambulance lights, and my mother's first words to me at the hospital. "Why weren't you watching him more carefully? You knew his heart was weak." Those words, they planted themselves deep inside me. In her story, I became partially responsible for his death. It was the beginning of a guilt she'd cultivate in me for decades. My teenage years, an endless, futile quest for approval. I joined every club, aced my classes, became debate captain and newspaper editor. Each achievement was met with, "Jennifer's daughter got into Harvard," or "Lisa's daughter has better stage presence." Despite her constant discouragement, I earned a full scholarship to Northwestern. "You'll drop out after a semester," she sneered. "College is harder than you think." But I didn't. I graduated summa cum laude. She didn't even show up for my graduation, claiming a migraine. Her interference absolutely destroyed my relationships. At 22, I dated Michael, a kind medical student. My friends adored him. My mother? At dinner, she told him, "Cassandra was always so awkward with boys. I'm surprised she caught your attention." A week later, she called him privately to spin tales of my emotional issues, saying I needed more therapy before a serious relationship. He broke things off. This pattern repeated with Ryan, then James. Each time, my mother found ways to sabotage my happiness. "I'm just looking out for you," she'd say. "You have terrible judgment in men." Yet, somehow, I built a successful career as a financial advisor. By 35, I was handling high-net-worth clients, a senior advisor at my firm. I bought a beautiful condo in Boston's Back Bay. And still, I supported her. After Dad died, she never worked, living off his insurance, then his pension. When those dwindled, I stepped in. Property taxes, utilities, her extravagant lifestyle, all on me. Every Sunday, I'd drive to her house in Brooklyn, listening to her complain about everyone, and most often about me. This year, for her 65th, I planned something truly special. A private room at Fleming Steakhouse, her favorite, her closest friends, a photographer, a custom cake. And for months, I'd worked with a jeweler to restore my grandmother's sapphire bracelet, a family heirloom she'd always coveted but had left to me. I decided to give it to her, hoping this gesture finally would earn her approval. "This birthday will be different," I told my therapist. "She'll finally see how much I care." My therapist just gave me a look. Deep down, I knew I was setting myself up for another disappointment. But hope is a stubborn, stupid thing. The evening arrived. Fleming's was perfect. The private dining room glowed with candlelight, crystal, fine china, white roses, her favorite hydrangeas everywhere. The chef had her appetizers ready, the bartender her Cabernet. I arrived an hour early, my heart a frantic flutter of anticipation and anxiety. "Your mother must be very special," the manager smiled. "She is," I replied automatically, a knot tightening in my stomach. Guests started arriving at 7 sharp. Her friends greeted me warmly. "Your mother is so lucky to have you, Cassandra." I smiled politely, wondering if my mother shared that sentiment. At 7:15, she swept in an expensive black dress I'd bought her. I moved to hug her. She offered her cheek. "The valet took forever," were her first words. "And this room is too dark. Who selected these flowers? Hydrangeas make me sneeze." Hydrangeas had been her favorites my entire life. I said nothing, just signaled for her wine. Dinner progressed with her holding court, barely acknowledging me except to complain her steak was overcooked, though I could clearly see it was perfectly medium rare. After the main course, before dessert, I stood. The small, blue velvet box felt heavy in my hands. "Mom," I said, my voice steadier than I felt, "I wanted to give you something special." I handed her the box. It's grandmother's bracelet. I had it restored. The table fell silent. She opened it. The sapphires glittered. It was truly beautiful. She looked at it for a long moment. Then she snapped the box shut. "Your grandmother should have left this to me in the first place," she said flatly. "She always did favor you inappropriately." The silence thickened, suffocating. Her oldest friend, Eleanor, gently touched her arm. "Evelyn, it's a beautiful gift." My mother simply placed the box on the table without another word. My cheeks burned with humiliation. I returned to my seat. When the cake arrived, glowing with candles, everyone sang. My mother smiled for the photographer, then stood to make a toast. "Thank you all for coming tonight," she said, her voice carrying across the silent room. "It's nice to be surrounded by true friends on my birthday." She didn't look at me. As I get older, I find myself valuing authenticity more and more. She raised her glass higher, finally turning her gaze to me. What happened next plays in slow motion in my memory. "If I were to wish for a gift this year," she continued, her eyes cold, "the best gift would be for certain people to just leave my life entirely. No more pretense, no more obligation. Just freedom from relationships that were never meant to be." The room went completely still. Her friend shifted, avoiding eye contact. There was no mistaking her meaning. "To another year," she finished, sipping her wine as if she hadn't just publicly rejected her only child. I sat frozen. The cake remained untouched. The photographer, sensing the icy tension, quietly packed up. For the rest of the evening, she chatted with her friends as if nothing had happened. My body moved on autopilot, my mind replayed her words. The drive home was silent. At her house, she gathered her things, including the bracelet box, still unopened. "Dinner was adequate," she said, opening the car door. "Next time, choose a better restaurant." I couldn't help myself. "Did you mean what you said about wanting me out of your life?" She paused, one foot on the curb. "Cassandra, don't be so sensitive. I was making a general statement." "It didn't feel general, Mom. It felt very specific." She sighed heavily. "If you choose to take everything personally, that's your problem. But yes, our relationship has always been a burden. I did my duty raising you. I'm not obligated to pretend we have some special bond now." "I pay your bills," I said quietly. "I maintain your house. I take you to every doctor's appointment." "And you never let me forget it, do you?" she snapped. "You think your financial support buys you the right to be in my life? That's your father and you, always keeping score." She slammed the car door and walked to her house without looking back. I sat in that driveway for nearly 20 minutes, tears streaming down my face, before I could compose myself. Lying in bed that night, a fundamental truth hit me. nothing would ever change. No achievement, no gift, no sacrifice would ever be enough to make my mother love me. For 35 years, I'd been on a hamster wheel, exhausting myself for an impossible goal. As dawn broke, I made a decision that would change both our lives forever. I didn't sleep. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table with a legal pad, making lists and plans until the sun rose. By 6 a.m., I had a complete strategy for disappearing from my mother's life. Not just emotionally, but practically and financially. First, I called my office. 2 weeks emergency personal leave. I had months of unused vacation, always too busy for her to take any. Next, James Wilson, a realtor I'd helped. I need to sell my condo quickly and discreetly, I told him. No public listings, no open houses. Find a private, cash buyer, even if it's slightly below market value. He was concerned. Are you in trouble, Cassandra? No trouble, I assured him. Just making necessary changes. By noon, I was with my financial advisor, Gregory Peters, a detailed list in hand. I need to untangle my finances from my mother's, I explained. Every account, every automatic payment, every financial connection. Gregory's professional eye scanned my documents. This is extensive. You're paying for her property taxes, utilities, credit card minimums, car insurance, medical copays. Yes, and I want it all stopped immediately. May I ask why? It's time for both of us to live independently, I said simply. We spent 3 hours restructuring my entire financial life. I froze the joint checking account, canceled all automatic payments from my accounts to her creditors, removed myself as an authorized user on her credit cards, and her as the beneficiary on my life insurance and retirement accounts. What about the mortgage on her house? Gregory asked. You've been making those payments for 5 years. Stop those too, I said firmly. The house is in her name. The responsibility is hers. From there, I went to the post office to forward all my mail to a new P.O. box. I called every shared service provider, home security, lawn care, and removed my name and payment information. Using my financial advisory knowledge, I was meticulous. No loose ends. No forgotten automatic payments. No financial ties that could pull me back into her orbit. Back at my condo, I packed only what I truly needed. Clothes, important documents, irreplaceable photos, a few sentimental items for my father. Everything else, sold with the condo or donated. As I packed, I realized how little I cared about my possessions. So many had been bought to impress her, to meet her expectations. Expensive art I never liked, a formal dining set I never used, designer clothes that never felt comfortable. They could all stay. That evening, I wrote my mother a letter. 7 drafts, until it expressed my feelings without anger or accusation. Mom, asterisk, you said the best gift would be for me to leave your life. I am giving you that gift. By the time you read this, I will be gone. The financial support I have provided over the years has ended. The house bills and all expenses are now solely your responsibility. This is not done out of anger, but acceptance. You are right that our relationship has been based on obligation rather than love. I release us both from that obligation. Asterisk, asterisk, do not try to find me. I do not wish to be found. Asterisk, Cassandra, I sealed it, drove to her house late that night, slipped it under her door, and walked away without looking back. That night, I checked into a hotel under a different name, paying cash. Sitting on that generic bed, I felt a surreal mix of emotions. Searing grief, yes, but also a profound relief. For the first time, I wasn't responsible for her happiness, comfort, or financial security. The weight that lifted from my shoulders was so immense, I actually gasped aloud in the empty room. Over the next week, my plan unfolded with mechanical precision. James found a cash buyer for my condo, accepting 15% below market for a quick, private sale. I opened new bank accounts, deactivated social media, got a new phone number. I took only what fit in my car, driving west with no specific destination in mind. Each mile put physical distance between my old life and whatever would come next. I stopped checking my old email. I didn't answer calls from unknown numbers. I severed every tether. The first week of freedom was disorienting. Habit had me reaching for my phone to check on her, to remind her of an appointment. I'd catch myself planning Sunday visits that would never happen. Guilt would crash over me like a wave, leaving me breathless. But beneath it all ran a current of something unfamiliar, possibility. For the first time, my decisions affected only me. My time was entirely my own. My resources, substantial after years of professional success, were mine to direct. I had disappeared from my mother's life completely. What I didn't expect was how thoroughly I would disappear from my own former life as well. The Cassandra who existed in Boston, the dutiful daughter constantly seeking approval, was gone too. Who would take her place remained to be seen. 1 week after I disappeared, my mother started trying to contact me. At first, her messages to my old email and voicemails to my disconnected number were irritated, not concerned. Cassandra, the lawn service says you canceled. Call me immediately. The electric company says the automatic payment stopped. Fix this today. My prescriptions need refilling. Where are you? She didn't mention my letter. In her mind, I was still responsible for her life. 10 days after I left, my former assistant Megan emailed my new address, which I'd only given her and my therapist. Your mother came to the office today, she wrote. She was very upset, demanding to know where you were. Security had to escort her out when she started yelling. I thanked Megan, offering no details. The same day, Eleanor called my therapist's office. Bound by confidentiality, my therapist revealed nothing, but relayed the message during our next phone session. Your mother appears to be escalating, Dr. Winters said carefully. Eleanor said she's been calling everyone you know, becoming increasingly frantic. 2 weeks in, my mother discovered her house payment was overdue. According to Eleanor, this sent her into a tailspin. She hadn't made a mortgage payment in 5 years and had apparently forgotten the process entirely. Social media became her next battleground, though I deactivated my accounts. Friends forwarded screenshots of her posts, which grew more dramatic by the day. My daughter has abandoned me without warning. After all I sacrificed for her, she has left her elderly mother without support or care. Please help me find her. The comments filled with sympathetic responses from people who only knew her version. A few who knew us both expressed skepticism, but were quickly shouted down. 3 weeks after my disappearance, my mother received notice that her joint account with me had been frozen. This, Eleanor reported, was when reality truly began to set in. She went to the bank and made quite a scene, Eleanor relayed. They explained the account was frozen and suggested she open a new one with her own funds. She said she had no funds, that Cassandra handled all that. My mother had never bothered to understand her own finances. Despite a modest pension and Social Security, she'd always relied on my support to maintain her lifestyle. Without it, she faced a harsh reality. A month into my absence, her credit card payments were past due. All 6 cards maxed out, minimum payments made with my money. Now, she faced over $40,000 in debt with no way to pay it. When James Wilson put a sold sign in front of my condo, she drove there in a panic, only to find new owners moving in. They had no information about me. 5 weeks after I left, she missed her second mortgage payment and received her first formal warning from the bank. This, coupled with the mounting debt, caused her first health crisis. Eleanor found her collapsed in her kitchen, hyperventilating from an anxiety attack. At the hospital, her blood pressure was dangerously high. She kept asking for you, Eleanor told my therapist. It was the first time I saw her actually worried about you rather than what you could do for her. After 6 weeks, my mother left her first voicemail that wasn't demanding or accusing. Her voice sounded smaller, older. Cassandra, I don't understand why you've done this. I need you to come home. I miss you. The last part sounded forced, unpracticed, as if expressing affection was a foreign language to her. 2 months after I left, she received foreclosure warnings. Her Brooklyn house, worth nearly $1 million, had substantial equity, but she had no idea how to access it or manage a sale. Eleanor, despite being 80, helped her meet a financial advisor who explained her situation in stark terms. Sell the house, pay off the debt, find a more affordable living situation, or face bankruptcy. Your mother finally broke down, Eleanor reported. She admitted that she drove you away. She showed me the letter you left. It was the first time I've seen her take responsibility for anything in the 40 years I've known her. 3 months after my disappearance, my mother wrote me a letter. Eleanor forwarded it to my therapist, who asked if I wanted to read it. I hesitated, then agreed. The letter was unlike anything I had ever received from her. Her usual perfect penmanship was shaky. The paper wrinkled, as if crumpled and smoothed out countless times. Cassandra! I have spent these months angry at you for abandoning me. Yesterday, I found a photo album in the attic. Pictures of you growing up that I had forgotten about. Looking at your face in those photos, I saw something I never allowed myself to see before. How much you were hurting even as a child because of me. I was not a good mother to you. I was jealous of your relationship with your father. After he died, I blamed you because blaming myself was too painful. I resented you for being young and having opportunities one never had. None of this is an excuse. I am not asking for money or help. The house is being sold next month. I am moving to a senior apartment that I can afford on my pension and Social Security. I understand why you left. I would have left too. I am sorry. Mom. The letter contained no demands, no guilt trips, no manipulation. For the first time in my life, my mother had seen me as a separate person with valid feelings. A week later, Eleanor sent another update. My mother had joined a support group for parents estranged from their adult children. She was seeing a therapist weekly. She was learning to do things for herself that she'd always relied on others to handle. On her next birthday, exactly 1 year after the dinner that changed everything, Eleanor sent a final message. Evelyn celebrated quietly at home. She had a small cake that she bought herself. She told me it was the first birthday where she truly understood what she had lost. Not the financial support or the practical help, but you. Just you. While my mother was confronting her new reality, I was building mine. After 2 weeks of driving, I settled in Seattle, as far from Boston as I could get. The constant rain and gray skies matched my mood those first few months. But the stunning beauty of the Pacific Northwest began to heal something in me. I found a modest apartment in Queen and with a view of Puget Sound. Unlike my Boston condo, I furnished this place entirely to my own taste. Simple, comfortable furniture in blues and greens that reminded me of the ocean. No formal dining room. No guest room designed to impress. Just spaces that felt like home to me. Using my experience, I found a position at a boutique financial firm specializing in ethical investments. Smaller than my Boston firm, clients less wealthy, but the culture emphasized work-life balance and genuine service. We value advisors who care about their clients as people, not just portfolios, the managing partner told me. My next priority, therapy. Dr. Matthews specialized in childhood trauma and toxic family dynamics. Unlike my Boston therapist, who gently encouraged reconciliation, Dr. Matthews validated my decision. Estrangement is sometimes the healthiest choice, she told me. Not every relationship can or should be saved. Those words gave me permission to stop feeling guilty, to stop second-guessing the decision that had allowed me to breathe freely for the first time in decades. Making friends proved more challenging. In Boston, my connections were through my mother or work. In Seattle, I had to learn to form relationships based solely on common interests. I joined a hiking group, a book club, a community garden. Slowly, I built a circle of friends who knew nothing about my past, who liked me for who I was. Connections that felt like real connections. The first holiday season alone was difficult. Thanksgiving came with a wave of grief, so intense I spent the day in bed, looking at old photos of my father, crying for the family I never really had. Christmas brought anxiety dreams of frantically shopping for her, only to realize I'd forgotten what she liked. But New Year's Eve marked a turning point. My new friend Stephanie invited me to a small gathering. There, I met Daniel, a high school English teacher with kind eyes and a quiet sense of humor. We talked for hours about books, hiking Seattle. When he asked for my number, I hesitated, old fears surfacing, but I gave it to him anyway. A small act of courage that felt enormous. Our first few dates were nothing like my Boston relationships. No pressure to impress, no calculation about what my mother would think. We simply enjoyed each other's presence. Meeting Daniel's family was an education in what healthy family dynamics looked like. His parents disagreed without contempt, expressed affection without strings, and showed interest without trying to control. The first time his mother hugged me goodbye, I stood stiff with surprise before awkwardly returning the embrace. "Your family is so normal," I told Daniel later. "It's kind of amazing." He laughed. "They have their quirks, but yes, they're pretty great." 6 months into my new life, I had my first major breakthrough in therapy. Dr. Matthews asked me to write a letter to my younger self. "Dear little Cassandra," I wrote, *, it was never your job to make Mom happy. Her unhappiness lived inside her long before you were born. You did not cause it, and you could never fix it. You were a good daughter. You were worthy of love exactly as you were. * reading those words aloud in Dr. Matthews's office, I sobbed until my throat hurt. For the first time, I truly believed them. That same week, I received the letter from my mother. Reading her words, I felt a complicated mix of emotions: validation, sorrow, and a strange, tentative hope that perhaps she was capable of change. I didn't respond immediately. "There's no rush," Dr. Matthews assured me. "Take all the time you need." The 7-month mark brought another milestone. I was promoted at work after bringing in several significant new clients. My approach, focusing on understanding clients' values rather than just maximizing returns, had proven successful. "You have a gift for making people feel heard," my boss told me. It was perhaps the first professional compliment I'd received that had nothing to do with numbers. Dating Daniel continued to teach me about healthy relationships. When we disagreed, no silent treatment, no threats, no keeping score. We simply talked it through. When he told me he loved me for the first time, I panicked, pulling away for nearly a week. He gave me space, but made it clear he was still there. When I finally explained my fears, he listened without judgment. "Love shouldn't be scary," he said simply. "It should feel like coming home." As the 1-year mark of my departure from Boston approached, I received another update from Eleanor. My mother had sold her house, paid off her debts, and moved to a senior living apartment. She was taking art classes, joined a book club. The photo Eleanor attached showed my mother looking older, but somehow softer, smiling tentatively at the camera, holding a watercolor she'd painted. Looking at that photo, I made a decision I never thought I would make. I would return to Boston, not to stay, not to rescue, but to see for myself who my mother had become in my absence. After a year of building my new life, I flew back to Boston with a mixture of dread and curiosity. Daniel offered to come, but this was a journey I needed to take alone. I didn't tell my mother I was coming. I wasn't ready for a planned reunion with its weight of expectations and potential disappointments. I booked a hotel downtown and spent the first day reacquainting myself with the city. Boston felt familiar and foreign, like a dream remembered. I walked through the public garden, past my old office, my former condo. These places that had defined my existence now seemed to belong to someone else's life. On my second day, I visited Eleanor. At 81, she was sharp, insightful. "Your mother has changed," she told me over tea. Not completely, mind you. She still has her moments. but there's a humility to her now that I never thought I'd see. Do you think I should see her? I asked. Eleanor considered. Only you can decide that, dear. But I will say this, the woman who told you to leave her life is not entirely the same woman who lives in that senior apartment now. I hadn't planned to see her that day, but as I left Eleanor's building, I found myself driving toward Brooklyn. Her new address was a modest apartment complex, nothing like the stately colonial she'd lived in for decades. I parked across the street, intending just to see the building and leave. But as I sat there, I saw her walking toward the entrance, carrying a small grocery bag. She moved more slowly, her posture less rigid. Without conscious decision, I got out of the car. We nearly collided at the coffee shop next door to her building. I'd decided to get a coffee to calm my nerves before leaving. And there she was in line ahead of me. She didn't recognize me at first. My hair was shorter, my style more casual, my expression more relaxed. It was only when the barista called out "Cassandra" for my order that she turned, her eyes widening in shock. "Cassandra." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Hello, Mom." We stood frozen, the bustle of the coffee shop continuing around us. Finally, she spoke again. Are you okay?" The question surprised me. In all our years, she had rarely asked about my well-being with genuine concern. "I am," I said simply. "Are you?" She nodded, her eyes never leaving my face. Would you sit with me? Just for a few minutes." I hesitated, then gestured to a small table by the window. We sat awkwardly, two strangers who had once been mother and daughter. I didn't tell anyone except Eleanor. She nodded again, understanding. "You look well. Different, but well." "So do you," I replied and meant it. There was a softness to her that hadn't existed before. The harsh lines of perpetual disapproval somewhat faded. After a few minutes of strange small talk about the weather and coffee, I suggested we walk to the park across the street, neutral ground, more private. We sat on a bench, leaving careful space between us. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. Then my mother did something I had never seen her do. She cried. Not the manipulative tears she'd sometimes used, but silent, dignified tears that she tried to wipe away discreetly. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice steady despite the tears. "I never thought I would see you again." "I never planned to come back," I admitted. She nodded. "I understand why. I've had a lot of time to think about everything. Eleanor mentioned you joined a support group." "Yes. Parents estranged from adult children. PC they call it." She gave a small, self-deprecating laugh. "At first, I went to learn how to get you back, but what I learned instead was why you left." She turned slightly to face me, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. The other parents there, they all had stories about their ungrateful children who abandoned them for no reason. But as they talked, I began to see the patterns, the control, the criticism, the emotional manipulation. I recognized myself in their stories, and it was uncomfortable. I remained silent, hardly believing what I was hearing. My therapist, Dr. Collins, helped me understand something I never wanted to face. She took a deep breath. "I treated you the way my mother treated me." This was new information. My grandmother, who died when I was 10, had always seemed like a saint in family stories. "Your grandmother?" My mother nodded. "She was cruel. Nothing I did was ever good enough. She compared me constantly to my cousins, to neighbors' children. She told me I was the disappointment of her life." Her voice caught. "Sound familiar?" I felt a chill despite the warm spring day. "You never told me." "I never told anyone. I was ashamed, somehow, as if her treatment of me was my fault." She looked down at her hands. "When you were born, I swore I'd be different, but I didn't know how. I had no model for good mothering, only perfect images from magazines and television that I could never live up to." "That explains some things," I said carefully, "but it doesn't excuse them." No, she agreed immediately. It does not. Nothing excuses how I treated you, especially after your father died. I was jealous of your relationship with him. He knew how to love you in a way I didn't know how to love anyone. The frankness of this admission stunned me. My mother had never acknowledged my father's superior parenting, let alone admitted jealousy. After he died, I blamed you because I couldn't bear to blame myself for not being there when he needed me. And then, over the years, it became a habit, making you responsible for my happiness, my comfort, my everything. She wiped away another tear. It was wrong, Cassandra. All of it was wrong. We sat in silence for several minutes, the weight of decades of pain between us. I brought something for you, she said, finally, reaching into her purse. She pulled out a worn leather journal. I've been writing this since you left. My therapist suggested it might help me understand my behavior and its impact on you. She held it out to me. You don't have to read it, but if you ever want to understand, it's all there. My childhood, my marriage to your father, my failures as your mother, and my work to become someone different. I took the journal, feeling its weight in my hands. Thank you, I said, not knowing if I would ever open it. I'm not asking for forgiveness, she continued. I'm not even asking to be part of your life again. I just wanted you to know that I understand now why you had to leave, and that I'm truly sorry for making that necessary. As we parted that day, there was no tearful reconciliation, no promises of a restored relationship. Instead, there was something more valuable: truth. For the first time, we had spoken honestly about our shared past and the damage done. I live in Seattle now, I told her as we stood to leave. I have a good life there. She smiled, a genuine smile without bitterness. I'm glad. That's what I should have wanted for you all along. I can't promise anything, I said carefully, but if you'd like, we could exchange emails. Just see how it goes. I would like that very much, she replied, her voice steady, but her eyes bright with unshed tears. We agreed to limited correspondence, emails only for 3 months. No phone calls, no visits, just written words that could be considered carefully. As I watched her walk back to her apartment building, shoulders straight, but without the rigid control I remembered, I felt something unexpected. Hope. Not for the mother-daughter relationship I'd always craved as a child, but for a new, more honest connection between two flawed adults who shared a painful history but might possibly find a way forward. On the plane back to Seattle, I held the journal, but didn't open it. Some truths needed to be approached slowly, with care and support. I would share it with Dr. Matthews first, then decide if and when I was ready to read my mother's unfiltered thoughts. Daniel met me at the airport, his calm presence a balm after the emotional turbulence of the trip. How did it go? He asked simply as we drove home. Honestly, I replied, nothing like I expected, and maybe, just maybe, better than I feared. 2 years have passed since I vanished from my mother's life. In that time, I've built something I never thought possible. A life defined by peace rather than constant anxiety, by genuine connection rather than obligation, by self-worth rather than desperate approval-seeking. My career in Seattle has flourished. I was made partner at the firm last year, specializing in helping women achieve financial independence after divorce or widowhood. The work feels meaningful in a way my Boston position never did, perhaps because I understand firsthand the power of financial security in creating freedom. Daniel proposed 6 months ago on a hiking trail overlooking the Olympic Mountains. Unlike my previous relationships, our connection has grown slowly and steadily, built on mutual respect and genuine affection. When I said yes, it was with complete confidence, rather than the nagging doubt that had accompanied major decisions in my past. My relationship with my mother has evolved into something I never imagined possible. Our email correspondence gradually expanded to include occasional phone calls. Last Christmas, I invited her to visit Seattle, and to my surprise, she came. Watching her interact with Daniel and his family was revelatory. She was quieter, more observant, less quick to judge or criticize. When Daniel's niece showed her a drawing, my mother admired it sincerely, without pointing out flaws or making comparisons. It was as if she was learning how to be a grandmother by watching Daniel's parents. "Your mother is not what I expected from your stories," Daniel said after she returned to Boston. "She's not the same person," I replied, realizing the truth of it as I spoke. "Neither am I. We're planning a small wedding for next spring." When I hesitantly asked if she would like to attend, her response surprised me. "I would be honored," she wrote, "but I will understand if you change your mind. This day should be perfect for you, not stressful because of my presence." This consideration of my feelings, this willingness to step back if needed, was evidence of how far she had come. 2 years ago, she would have either demanded a central role or refused out of spite. My mother continues her therapy and support group. She volunteers at a community garden and teaches art classes at her senior living facility. We will never have the close mother-daughter bond that some of my friends enjoy with their mothers. Too much damage was done too early, and some wounds, while healed, leave permanent scars. But we have something different, something hard-won. Through separation, self-reflection, and deliberate change, we have an honest relationship between two adults who see each other clearly, with all our flaws and strengths. The journal she gave me sits on my bookshelf. I finally read it with Dr. Matthews's support 6 months after my Boston visit. Its pages contain pain I had never imagined, insights I had never expected, and a perspective on our shared history that helped me understand, if not excuse, the dynamics that shaped our relationship. Looking back, my decision to disappear from my mother's life was necessary, not just for my healing, but for hers as well. As long as I remained the dutiful daughter, absorbing her criticism and meeting her needs, neither of us could change. It was only in my absence that she was forced to confront her behavior and its consequences. Not everyone will understand my choice. Some might think me cruel for leaving an elderly parent without support. Others might question why I ever allowed contact to resume. But I've learned that healing rarely follows a straight or simple path. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do for ourselves and others is to disappear until we are seen for our true worth. Sometimes the people who hurt us most deeply can change, given enough time and motivation. And sometimes the family we create through choice can teach us how to heal the wounds inflicted by the family we were born into. Daniel and I are building a life based on mutual respect, open communication, and genuine affection. His family has welcomed me with a warmth I never knew was possible. My circle of friends continues to grow, each relationship teaching me something new about healthy connection. As for my mother and me, we proceed carefully, each interaction a small test of our new boundaries and understanding. There are still difficult moments, old patterns that try to reassert themselves. But now we have tools to recognize and redirect these tendencies before they cause new damage. At her most recent birthday dinner, a quiet affair at a restaurant near her apartment, she raised her glass in a toast very different from the one that changed our lives 2 years ago. "To second chances," she said simply, "and to the daughter who was brave enough to leave so that both of us could find better versions of ourselves." Sometimes the greatest gift you can give yourself and others is the courage to vanish until they see your true worth. Have you ever had to create distance from someone you love in order to heal? Thank you for being part of this journey with me. And remember, it is never too late to create boundaries that protect your peace. Take care.